homeowner association destroyed my trees without permission and tried to bill me for it. They get slapped with a $350,000 fine. Here is what happened. Subscribe to Ripe on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. I had been having issues with my HOA for a while when it came to my trees. I just want to start by saying that my trees were all healthy and fully on my property. I know sometimes when trees die, it is important to remove them because of safety, but just starting out the story by telling you all that this was not the case. Anyway, the HOA had sent me several letters regarding a few different trees that I had on my property. A few of the trees they wanted me to trim and a few they wanted me to remove altogether. I mostly ignored these letters, but they became more common and I started even getting phone calls from the HOA about it. The content of the calls and letters all were basically saying that my trees went against HOA policy and did not give the neighborhood the kind of look that they wanted others to see. I honestly had no idea what the real issue was, but my guess was that a few trees in my front yard kind of blocked my actual house from outside view. I did not really care if other people could see my house because that was kind of weird. My number was visible for people trying to deliver to my house, so there was never any issue regarding that. It was just that my house looked different from everyone else's because of this, and the HOA did not like that. Then, one day, an HOA board member actually came to my house to talk to me about my trees. I won't go through the entire conversation, but they basically threatened me that if I didn't do something about my trees, then they were going to do something about it. I figured this meant they were going to start fining me and I would have to fight it like so many other people with HOA problems had to do. Instead, this went a very different way and I came home from work to see that the HOA actually paid out of their own pocket to hire a company to trim some of my trees and remove 2 of them altogether. Messing with somebody else's property is never a good idea and they were about to hear it from me. I spent the entire next day making calls until I got in touch with the board member who had taken it upon herself to do this to my yard. What they told me over the phone was so crazy, I honestly could not believe what I was hearing. Me? You messed with my property. HOA? I know, doesn't it look so much better now? No need to thank me. Me? Thank you? I should be suing you personally for messing around with my property. Those were my trees and you had no right to have them removed. HOA, I told you I was going to do something about it if you didn't. Don't worry though, because I got a very good price and I will send you the bill in the mail in a couple of days. That's right, she actually did this without my consent and was now going to try and bill me for it. Me, you can keep that bill because there's no way in hell I am paying you for destruction of my property. Then I hung up and spent a while fuming and trying to figure out what to do about the whole thing. I ended up getting a copy of the HOA contract and finding that there was a clause in it about them hiring somebody to maintain property and then bill it to the owner's expense that was only for when there was an immediate danger, like a dead tree in danger of falling or something. This was in no way allowed as part of that and I was ready to sue the HOA for misuse of their contract. I knew that they might try to say the trees were dead or something, but it was still worth willing to fight them over it. I wanted to make sure that I had as much information as I could in order to bury the HOA for what they did to me. I wanted to make sure they not only paid for this, but never got away with doing it to somebody else ever again. I got a lawyer and explained that I wanted to sue them, and he agreed that what they did was very far out of the things they were normally allowed to do. What I didn't know was that they were going to end up paying a lot more than just some reparation money to me. It was pretty open and shut over the fact that they had no right to have them removed since they were not dead. It also stated that they could only do that if I was out of town, which I clearly wasn't since the woman admitted even to talking to me the day before all of this happened. They had to pay me a little bit of money, but that is not the ending that I wanna focus on. See, outside of the HOA and me, there was a whole different problem that my lawyer had brought up in court. I know places do things differently with local laws, so let me break down how tree removal laws work around here. At any point you can have tree branches trimmed or pruned. The removal of a tree that is still alive though needs to have a permit to do so. This permit is not the same one that a tree removal company has, which makes it legal for them to remove the trees. This is one the owner is supposed to get, where somebody from the town comes and looks at the tree before deciding if it is okay or not to remove. When the lawyer asked the HOA to please present the permit that the town gave them to remove my 2 trees, they did not have anything to show. It turns out that they did not even bother getting the permits, and the woman just called the company, deciding that the HOA did not need to follow the rules. The court was angry about the HOA breaking the law and ended up fining them $350,000, not only for removing my 2 trees, but also a few other trees in the neighborhood without a single permit. The backlash was crazy because that was most of the money the HOA even had. The woman ended up leaving the board before it could totally fall apart. The rest of the board members jumped ship, leaving just the HOA president to try and clean up the mess that was left. Since he actually did not have enough money to pay the courts and keep the HOA running, it ended up falling apart to the point that it only existed in name. It never officially got disbanded, so still everyone living here is living in an HOA that they don't give any money to, and there is nobody to enforce anything. I'm just glad the woman was unable to continue her power trip and I could replant some trees and wait for them to grow. And yeah guys, I'm wondering at which point HOAs finally understand that they should not just cut trees down wherever and whenever they feel like it. Even the most stupid HOA president at this point should know that trees can get expensive. Anyway, let's continue with the stories. And the next one is titled Decade-Long Revenge. A little setup. My dad is one of 9 children to my grandparents. When the oldest sister, my auntie, let's call her Margaret, got married, one of the gifts she received was 4 very poorly made clay pots from one of her friends who was not super close to the family. They were all very different to each other and did not match at all. I assume they came out of a first-timers pottery class or something. Anyway, fast forward 15 years and my parents are getting married. Margaret shows up at the wedding, as does everyone else. The ceremony and reception pass with no drama and everyone goes home. The following week, my parents begin to sort through all their wedding gifts. Unwrap Margaret's to find a very old worn-looking cardboard box with the old tape still underneath the new tape put on there by Margaret to hold the lid closed. Dad opens the box to see the 4 pots that had been given to Margaret 15 years prior. My parents knew this was a gift to Margaret originally, because at the bottom of the box was a cord of congratulations on your wedding addressed to Margaret. She had not even bothered to take the pots out of the box when she was gifted them or check the condition when rewrapping them. This thoroughly pissed off my dad. Then his anger turned to determination as he started to develop a plan that would stretch almost a decade. With Christmas fast approaching, my dad rewrapped the pots in the same box with the same wedding card addressed to Margaret. Essentially in the same condition he had received it in, and he then wrote another card addressed to another one of his siblings explaining his plan. He gave the present to the youngest of his siblings. The newer card explained that she was to hold on to the pots until next Christmas, making sure to unwrap it and make sure that everyone could see the pots in one way or another. The card then explained to leave the wedding card in the box and to not let anyone see it. My auntie would then hold on to the box, pots and card until next Christmas. She would then give them and my dad's note to the next sibling above her in age, my uncle. This cycle would repeat another 8 times until it reached the oldest sibling, Margaret. In my dad's letter, it instructed the last sibling before Margaret to not give her the letter written by him regarding the plan. 9 years after giving the gift away, my dad and all his siblings watched as she pulled out the pots that she had been seeing being passed around from sister to brother to sister for the last decade. She then noticed the note still in the box. She opened it and a category 4.2 earthquake was registered as her jaw hit the floor. Now, most people would expect her to erupt in rage, but Australians have some of the best senses of humor on the planet. The family all had a good chuckle about it and moved on to Christmas lunch. The pots are now separated, one going to my dad, Margaret, my grandparents, and the last being the trophy of the annual cricket game. It was sadly destroyed by a rogue ball in that very same yearly tournament and is now only half a trophy. And yeah guys, I mean, it is one thing to not like a present and not use it or whatever. Even getting a refund for it if possible is okay in my book. However, giving it away as another present for next Christmas or whatever is just outrageous. The next one is titled Petty Revenge Employer. More than a decade ago, I worked at a health food store while I was in college. It was a relatively low-stress job that paid a low wage, but I enjoyed it. I never knew that the ownership was not happy with my performance. They never bothered to speak with me. However, the day before I graduated from school and with my entire family in town, they went ahead and fired me. No reason, just said they did not think I was working out. I was heartbroken and worst of all, confused. I have mostly forgotten about my time there except for in the past year. In my professional job now, I have received a number of promotions. That's been fun, but it's also come with a huge surge in unwanted salespeople reaching out to me on a daily basis. In my annoyance, I have developed an absolutely crazy habit. I tell the exceptionally irritating salespeople, those who persist after I tell them no, to give me a call to discuss what they are offering. Only, instead of giving them my number, I give them the number to the health food store that let me go all those years ago. I started doing this at the beginning of 2021 and so far I have given their number out to 94 hungry salespeople, many of whom reported back that they and the health food store were both angry and asked me to grow up. Fair enough. But for me, it kills two birds with one stone. Number 1, reminding the health food store that fired me for no reason that I'm now a vice president and also wasting the time of salespeople who literally won't take no for an answer. I know, it is petty as hell. And guys, if you've ever gotten petty revenge on someone, please feel free to share your story in the comments or on r/ripe stories on Reddit, which is our own subreddit. The next one is titled Revenge on a Cat? Ever since my wife became pregnant, our cat has become obsessed with sitting on her. I will be sitting next to my wife on the couch, empty lap covered with a warm blanket, and this a-hole of a cat will walk right across my lap to lightly tap on her arm, indicating that she should put her laptop away so he can sit there. This also extends to bedtime, where he will spend most of the night being king of the hill, curled up on her belly or hip. He is very comfy and pleased to be there that there is very little that would convince him to move. Not even, for example, if he has to cuff up a hairball. No, he will just do it where he is. And if my cat is king of the hill, guess who lives in the valley underneath? That's right, that's me, specifically my arm. So that is how last night at 3 AM you would find me quietly trying to scrub cat vomit off of my arm and the blanket while also quietly swearing at the cat who showed no remorse. But I had a trick up my sleeve. See, my wife has a natural instinct that when she senses me to roll over in bed, she changes positions as well. Knowing this trick has been useful in the past, for instance if she is snoring, I can get her to adjust her position and breathe better without even having to wake her up. So I finish cleaning, get back in bed and wait. Sure enough, within a few minutes he is back on top of the hill. I wait long enough for him to settle down and get nice and comfy, and when he is all tucked in and happy as can be, the time has come for revenge. I roll. Oh no, a natural disaster has occurred and an avalanche has thrown the king off of his throne into the valleys below. He climbs back up again and settles down. I roll again. Earthquakes. The ground moves beneath him and the king falls once again. Disaster after disaster befalls the kingdom. Oh, the humanity. Okay, by the way, I only did it like 3 times. Was it petty? Yes. Did it delay my own getting back to sleep? Also yes. Was it satisfying? Hell yes. I love my furry little gremlin, but seriously, F you sometimes. And then an update from OP's wife. Wife here can confirm that His Majesty has become an utter cuddlebug since I've been pregnant, but this is the first and probably only instance of projectile vomit employed on my spouse, whom His Majesty also loves. I slept through most of this story, but I can confirm that the next morning he had reclaimed his throne on my hip and was purring very happily when I woke up. Comforter is in the wash, His Majesty is currently getting butt rubs from OP, and there are no hard feelings at all. The next one is titled Neighbor Neglects Their Dog. On Friday, a loose dog wandered into our yard at about 8 p.m. This dog has been loose in our neighborhood at least 3 times in the past month, but this is the first time we had been able to get close enough to grab him. I walked the dog through our neighborhood, going door to door to any houses that had their lights on or door open, asking if anyone recognized the dog. However, no one did. I brought the dog back to my house, attached him to a dog leash which we have in our front yard, we have our own dog, and went inside to grab a bowl of water for the dog. When I got back out, the dog had managed to get itself free from the lead and was gone. I checked my exterior-facing cameras and saw the dog running off, but did not save the video because I did not see any reason to. This afternoon, 4 days later, a neighbor I have never met before showed up at my door with her 2 kids asking if they had seen their dog and described the dog perfectly. Other neighbors said they remembered seeing me walking him, but I told her unfortunately he got away from me shortly after I found him and I have not seen him since. She said okay and left. About 30 minutes later, the kids came back by themselves and pounded on my door. I had left by then and asked if I could help them via my doorbell. They very accusingly said, "My mom said you have cameras, and if that's true, you need to show us the video of him leaving." I informed them that I saw their dog 4 days ago and my cameras only save about 24 hours of footage before overwriting themselves. They then left and the mom came back to my house also demanding the footage, to which I explained the same thing. She replied with, "Well, the neighbors said you had him." To which I responded with, "I don't have your dog and your dog is not my responsibility to keep track of." She told me, "Thanks for nothing, a-hole," and left. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edit, they live a few doors down and I have not seen them before. This is the first time I've ever seen these people. There are no lost dog posters anywhere in the neighborhood and no posts in our neighborhood Facebook group or next door. It appears no effort was made to look for the dog at all until now. And then a user in the comments said, "Not the a-hole, you are of course not responsible for wrangling lost dogs and did your best. Their behavior is strange, the 4-day delay, the weird behavior about camera footage, all very odd." Another user said, "Not the a-hole, but I suspect they doubt you no longer have the dog. I would not be surprised if they come back later to check your house and backyard, contact the police about it, or continue harassing you." And yeah guys, I'm curious, if you would have been in this situation, would you have done the same as OP? Let us know if you think OP is the a-hole or not. Thank you very much for watching, I hope to see you again tomorrow.